Hello, everybody. Now, ever wanted to pick your favorite franchise against your most hated franchise? You can. Just visit g4tv.com/deathmatch/best franchises 2011 and get in on round one of voting of our video game deathmatch right here on g4tv.com. Okay, enough of the pitching. Let's get to feedback. Hello, welcome to feedback for the week of March 30th, 2011. I'm so happy to be joined by Mike Delonzo.
Hello.
We don't see enough of you.
Thank you.
And now we will probably have seen enough of you.
That's it. Once a year, I'm good to go.
Today, yes, yes. Dana Vincent.
Hello.
We never get enough of you. And people will be yearning at the end of this. And Matt Kyle, well, you're like the Goldilocks porridge.
Pretty common.
Yeah.
Like the Rattata
Yes.
of feedback.
Obviously, it's, I don't know, is it a big week with the 3DS?
Well, it was supposed to be.
Yeah. This
It
is,
would have been if they'd gotten Icarus or Ocarina out.
but I mean, I haven't even seen ads, and we can get to some of that.
I'm just
you know.
amazed you can walk into a store and just buy it.
Yeah, this isn't the week.
When was the last time that happened? With,
Well,
with a game
with
launch?
any game launch.
I was disappointed that I couldn't walk into the store and buy both the 3DS and the girl that it was attached to.
Yeah.
Hmm.
They might
I
be
was
moving
really
those a little bit faster.
Yeah, right?
and
I would be
also-
much happier if they had sent the 10 girls to my house with 3DS strapped to them, and that would have been about as fascinating as it
even-
got.
Like a
I think for
delivery
you,
service?
Yeah.
Why not? Or even just a DS. You know, they could save a little bit of money.
Exactly.
And it'd be fine. Just
Yeah.
a regular, like not even an XL, the old one that really looked ugly.
Yeah, like the old blue one.
Yeah.
That was super thick.
All right, well, let's start with some news that, well, no. This news is 3DS related, so I can't say that we're going to be sparing
Wah, wah.
ourselves of that. Dana, Resident Evil, because 5 so resonated with me. I can't wait for more.
Well, you're going to get more.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow,
Surprise.
tell me more.
Happy birthday. So they have announced Operation Raccoon City, which is a third-person multiplayer shooter due later this year.
Sure sounds like an Animal Crossing spin.
Yeah, it really does.
Third person, but it's multiplayer, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was that old multiplayer one?
Outbreak,
on the PS2.
which actually was pretty cool. Like there were some good ideas in there. It was just the PS2's online support wasn't really ready for it.
Isn't that where we captured the footage of, like, it looked like somebody was humping something in the corner?
Well, we did that to a lot of games. But
Yeah, I think that was right.
Which one?
You know, that's the problem with these new games these days. We can't have accidental humping in the AI.
Yeah, the
It's
rise in production values in this generation has really hampered our
ability
review comedy.
to freely mock everything.
Like
that
you're never
going to
get another Lifeline.
Okay, so what else is there with Resident Evil Operation, which I assume is not you trying to take out the bones of Jill Valentine without touching the sides?
No, but man, I wish it was.
Yeah.
It's set in the bumping 1998 year of 1998.
That
And,
was a bumping year.
Lots happening.
Isn't it all Counting Crows soundtrack?
Oh man, I hope so.
Well,
Virus, U.S. government, special forces. You have to fight against people in a co-op
zombies?
battle.
That sounds like you just spun the jackpot wheel of video game
Well,
stuff.
all right,
you
so
know?
it's okay. It's saying that it's a reinterpretation of Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3.
Correct.
Back
Which
to
is-
Raccoon City.
Well, it is the infestation of Raccoon City from another point of view because we certainly haven't found out enough about what happened there.
I mean, but
over
it's
the
also
course of the years,
Resident Evil 5 was out in Africa.
Yeah, but that
and
took
4
place,
was
like,
in
now.
Spain.
And we all
But
know
there,
how
there
that
seems
went.
to be like this. I mean, are there two factions inside of these dev teams at Capcom? They're like, no, we need to stay at Raccoon City. No, we need to go see the world and get out and become more cultured.
I don't know. I'm waiting for them to go into that like 10-year blank period between like the old games and Resident Evil 4, where they're like, yeah, and a bunch of stuff happened.
Well, that's
And-
when
and
Code
now
Veronica
Leon-
was supposed to have happened.
Well, no, Code Veronica was sort of, but I don't even know if they count that anymore.
Dude, okay, really what I think we're getting at is, does anyone here think anyone at Capcom, there's even one dude that actually understands the timeline and everything that happened?
Gotta
There's
be one guy. but
There's
I don't
probably
think anyone
one
talks to
guy,
him.
Yeah.
and his girlfriend is a pillow.
I mean,
would say.
Shinji Mikami's making games for EA now. So, I mean, they kind of lost
Yep.
the dude I would go to.
It's the canon is very, very strange for Resident Evil. Like, it doesn't seem to make a whole lot of
Which
sense.
it wouldn't be a big problem if it did look like that they somehow was invoking canon all the time when they're doing
Right.
the game. That's what it's that.
Well, I think
weird
it's a
time.
bluff. I think they just act like there's a canon, so like no one wants to kind of be like, well, wait, I don't remember that because like, oh no, I do, I totally remember. Yeah, that was great. It's like fan service.
Yeah, we've been
Awesome.
planning to do
What a
this the whole
reference.
time.
Yeah,
So, have they announced systems for this operation in Raccoon City?
I don't think
So
so.
it sounds like this is for an actual console.
For an actual real
Like a real game
gaming
system?
console.
Yeah. One's for big boys that can put
Well,
their
I
pants up
mean-
all by themselves.
It's online. I hope they put it on the Wii because obviously they have the best multiplayer support.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that too. Okay, speaking of Nintendo systems that are definitely getting
Yeah, see, that was my
Resident
segue.
Evil, huh?
Well
See?
done.
Yeah,
Here we go on the 3DS.
fix that one underhand. Thank you, Dave.
with Resident Evil Mercenaries.
All right,
It's in 3D.
it is. Oh, so what's going to happen in this one? Do we know?
I don't.
Well, it's
Well,
in the title.
mercenaries are the
Those are the
Those
kind
are
of
levels, yeah.
the levels, like the score attack sort of. They put you in a level and you see how long you can last. Or you see
lacking
how
in
many-
narrative and just kind of a quick hit type stuff.
Yeah, it's for the people who just want to enjoy the smooth and flawless gameplay of Resident Evil.
We are a salty bunch today. I like this. And that's also coming with a demo of yet another Resident Evil game for the 3DS.
Revelations.
Well,
bet we're gonna find
reveal
some
what
stuff
Revelations is
out.
all about.
Which is I mean, she's on a cruise liner in that one. Yeah?
It's vacation time in
Hey,
Resident
so
Evil
Speed
Land.
2
Is it like
Cruise
Speed? I was
Control.
going to say Speed 2.
I mean, you know what? I miss Jason Patrick. Your Friends and Neighbors and Cruise Control are really my two standing memories
Well,
of
it's
him.
like Resident Evil Gaiden because that was a Game Boy Color game where you played as Barry from Resident Evil 1.
Oh,
Why
good old
can't they
Barry.
resurrect Barry?
The man who delivered the Master of Unlocking line and the
Yes.
Jill Sandwich line came back, and it was a Resident Evil story that took place on a boat, on an ocean liner, and so apparently I don't know, Barry got replaced by Jill for this one. Is that a
I don't know.
retelling?
I was just thinking that, you know what? I think I just kind of want to just go to some tropical island and open up a store called Jill Sandwiches or Jill Sandwich because I think that would be.
That's like it can
It's
be
really-
next door to Pontius Pilates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Cheeses of Nazareth.
Yeah, let's go into retail. I'm out of
Anyway, Revelations will be in 3 dimensions.
Okay, and anything more? I mean, they're going to, I guess.
That's pretty much all we know.
What it almost sounds like is that Mercenaries is coming out to quickly feed the desire for something on the
Correct.
3DS that has Resident Evil, that Revelations will be kind of more of a canonical game that's out there because one day it'll make sense, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Well, I think
Thomas Pynchon writes me every year to tell me that, and one day, maybe. No, he doesn't write me at all.
I wish he did.
it's okay.
I mean, maybe he is, but I don't think he would ever say it was him. So that could explain the hate mail. I love this idea. Okay, Matt, Duke Nukem lived up to expectations?
Yes, it was delayed from May 3rd to June 14th.
Yes.
Which puts it after E3, which is doubly hilarious because that means that's the only thing anyone's going to ask Randy Pitchford all through E3 is what the hell happened to Duke Nukem. I hope they don't plan on promoting any other games because I don't think anyone is going to want to talk about that. But it's sort of a tradition at this point, so I would think some fans would have been disappointed. And there's also those who believe that if Duke Nukem Forever comes out, like it's over. Like then
It's
what?
the end of the world.
It's the Mayan calendar.
right. That's when the vortex finally swallows us whole.
Yeah.
Which could be fun. Maybe they have clowns in the vortex.
I mean, I was assuming. I mean, maybe they just pushed it to get it past that May 21st end of the world deadline that all those billboards keep telling us about.
Oh,
around
those
town.
are
right. Have you seen those
creepy.
around
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super creepy.
But it's this really nice sunset that's apparently going to come at the end of the world.
Well, if you're
like
one
Night
of
of
them.
the Comet, remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, they remember they
Whoa.
went out to go see there's a nice sunset. No, then trouble started.
Then everybody turned into powder.
Let's put on our
Exactly.
Nikes.
And there was a DJ. So we'll survive in here.
Right. And powder, we don't mean a very, very pale-skinned man in a movie directed
Absolutely
by a
not.
child molester.
Yes.
So,
If you're out, if the Armageddon only works if you're outside, I think the gamers are fine.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
we'll
think
be
we're good.
We'll be okay.
We're like
Unless they're
cockroaches.
Unless they're not playing, what was it, Ben Gaio?
Yeah, if they're playing Bangayo, you're in trouble. But who's playing Bangayo?
Okay, so has there been any idea as to what actually caused the delay?
not really.
Well, let's play a
It's
part
Duke
of it.
Nukem.
Nukem. That's
There's
what
part
caused
of
the
me that
delay.
may think this may not be the game. The lineup for games in May is rather
May's
astonishing.
getting a little crazy.
Yeah,
And
except
one
for
big game coming out in May happens to be also published by Duke Nukem's parent company publisher, Take-Two, and that's L.A. Noire. So
Yeah,
I mean,
maybe.
they kind of are going to be fighting over the same audience.
Or maybe it's just an E3 gift. You know, something to bitch about before the show starts.
yeah, but we already have an E3 gift. I mean, there's so many games that are launching within a week or on the week of E3.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at this point, like maybe maybe the strategy is just to have piles of them at the booth, and you just come pick one up because it's just like.
You know what? Getting review builds might prove a little easier if we
Yeah.
can just go
I
send
hope
an intern
so.
over to a booth over at E3. Yeah, and if that happens, I'll eat my butt.
No, but didn't they have a little trouble at PAX with the Duke Nukem demo? Weren't they? I think
As
they were
in-
supposed
Well,
to
they were gonna show multiplayer, but they
Yeah.
decided not to.
So
Maybe
Yeah.
that is it.
I mean, multiplayer is a tricky beast. I mean, personally, I would never put multiplayer out for just the general public to play because you just don't know where that's going to go.
You know, when this is all over, it would be great to have some sort of documented timeline of what actually happened. You know, like a
Well, here's
in
how it goes.
retrospect.
Yeah.
Here's
Duke Nukem was announced. You and I were born,
right.
and now it's coming out, and our knees hurt.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
That's, I mean,
we
yeah,
have sciatica.
That's all.
you're vacationing in the Catskills.
Yes, we are.
Okay, so Duke Nukem lives up to expectations in being delayed, albeit the shortest delay in the history of Duke Nukem's delays. Here's something unexpected: a couple of film producers have gotten into games.
Yeah. Bob and Harvey Weinstein have decided to open a gaming branch of the Weinstein Company to sort of take advantage of their franchises and leverage it in the gaming space, which I assume means there's a Scream game coming. Because
Right.
I
They
can't.
did know. They named some games. Actually, everything they named in their press release is from Dimension Pictures, which is kind of their horror movie.
Right.
line.
I was
So-
really hoping there'd be a Miramax game line.
Oh my! That's what I want. I want Remains of the Day. It's kind of like instead of Where's Waldo, Where's the Nazi?
Am I not getting my Kinect King speech?
No. Well, it's.
And I saw that, and that could be like a rhythm game. It's like, if you're doing it bad, he
But,
stutters.
but,
more.
but.
Yeah, I mean, there's something
I
there.
wanted to come with one of those big microphones.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
peripheral that comes
And-
with it.
And an Oscar.
King speech hero.
Think about it. You could do all the Merchant Ivory films, and you do it as an RPG about a slow climb up or down the social ladder
Right, and you-
in 19th century England.
And you are always the butler
Yeah.
in all of these games. It's like
There's
Mass
so
Effect,
much.
where you're walking around going, "Can I get you more tea?"
Yeah, I mean, I just we
Did they do Gosford Park?
Yeah.
yeah.
I think they also did.
Be
They
into
did
that.
Pulp Fiction too. So
Yeah, they did
Pulp
Pulp
Fiction, the
Fiction.
video
Yes, it is
game, would
called
be
The
pretty
House
That would
great.
be
of
rad.
Casino.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's or Kill Bill game. Huh?
Kill Bill
Actually,
game
Kill-
would be good.
that-
I would play Inglorious Bastards.
I would actually play a game based on the House of Blue Leaves sequence in Kill Bill. That would be amazing.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
would be really, really cool.
I think we actually have played a lot of games that have at least been
Yeah,
inspired.
but-
They're just not overt references to.
But
to
still,
to
Kill Bill
that.
has the perfect structure
Yeah.
for a video game.
You know what?
practically
And
has levels.
I would love one of their first movies they produced was The Burning, a fine 80s horror movie.
Sure.
You would get to kill George from Seinfeld because he's in it and with hair. So
Who
it could be a lot
wanna
of
do
fun.
that?
So the Weinsteins are making games now. Who's making the games for them? Because I'm assuming Bob and Harvey will not be coding.
It is this. It's a company that they have gone with called Beefy Media.
Oh, them.
Yeah, I have actually never heard
Oh.
of Beefy Media. You guys can enlighten me if you have, but
Unfortunately, I think we won't be enlightening you today, Mike.
Yeah.
yeah,
We're going to
it's-
be looking at you
I mean,
silently.
what have they done? Have they done?
They have no. I looked this up this morning. They have no credits to their name. I'm guessing it's just sort of a shill company that they put together
I
where
mean,
they.
Are we really expecting games from the Weinsteins or like mobile apps that are adjunct marketing?
That
to
would be
certain
my guess.
properties
Is that
they have?
Harvey went? These iPhone apps seem to make a lot of money. We can knock one out in about a week.
Yeah,
that
you don't-
has
You don't know Miramax. That would
yeah, exactly. But like even just an app button on your phone with the Monk Scream mask is worth 99 cents. So
Yeah.
people will buy that.
I mean, I wonder if their idea of games and our idea of games are really what the issue is here.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I think so. I mean, I know we don't know a lot lot about this Beefy Media company.
The
Okay,
unfortunately
we all kind
named
of
Beefy
pause
Media.
when we say it like we've said something bad.
Yeah.
Well,
You've
yeah.
noticed that.
It sounds like a room full of people who fart a lot.
Yeah, it
I'm,
does.
I'm thinking of like topless posters of Mitch Gaylord or something like that.
Well, I just think there's an irony to
Did
something.
Miramax do that movie?
Did
the
I
Mitch
say
Gaylord
that
movie?
out loud?
Yeah.
Damn.
I think there's an
Adam,
irony
hey.
to something called Beefy Media being formed to make iPhone games.
Well, you
Yeah.
hear
Yeah.
media, and you don't necessarily think like AAA titles. You think apps and Facebook games.
I think of
and
like,
stuff
just
that.
just a blank CD-ROM.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, who
there's
knows
that, too.
though? I mean, Harvey Weinstein could be a huge gamer, and we just don't know it.
I don't think
Harvey, if you are and you watch the show, don't throw a full can of Coke at my head. Just let us know if you play games.
Too busy
And then you
yelling
can throw it at my
at
head.
Troy Duffy.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's get to, well, what is like kind of the big thing this week. Obviously, there's been already a lot of talk and stuff like that about the 3DS. It's getting, I would say, a lukewarm reception from
At
the
best.
press. I
And
think it's getting.
Japan, apparently.
Yeah, Kotaku ran
They're a little busy
photo.
right now,
I
but-
know, but yeah, and this may have something to do with it, but they just ran a photo of one game store that had quite a few returned 3DSs in it. So yeah, it was. I mean, and as they stated, and it's worth pointing out, we don't know why. We don't know if it's just that store. There can be many reasons. So let's not make too much of that. But so let's just start off by getting everyone's kind of initial opinion, but let's not linger too long on what's I think by this point becomes sort of an obvious mantra with regard to the 3DS. But Mike, have you gotten a chance to play it?
I have. It's I think the depth on the 3D is fascinating. It's pretty good. Any other 3D that they attempt doesn't really work, and it gives you an ice cream headache after
So
about 15
what you're
minutes.
saying is that the 3D that does the avatar thing where you're looking into the screen.
Yeah,
I mean, actually, are there games where something is trying to come out of the screen?
in Star Wars. There are a couple cutscenes where the ships sort of fly across the screen, and when they do, it just unjumbles your eyes for a second, and a really like when somebody does that thing where they in your face, it really it's like a wrench to your forehead. It really hurts your feelings.
And your head.
Yeah.
And your head with a wrench. Dana?
Well, I think it's like a woman with a very voluptuous bottom. You like looking at her from behind for a second, and you're sort of fascinated. But then once she turns around and you find out she's ugly, you don't like her anymore. You don't want to
Alright.
look at her.
I'm trying to think of this woman without
I've
someone
never
who I
done
know in
that.
my personal life.
Well, it's just it was very exciting at E3 when they announced it, and everybody thought, oh my god, it's finally here. Glass, you don't need glasses to see the 3D, and then we actually got it, and it just
I want to get to that in 1 second because I do think I think I had a different experience at E3 than I'm having now. But first, I want to hear, Matt, what your overall impression is.
Well, I actually did buy one. Still, I canceled all the game pre-orders, and still ended up getting Street Fighter when I picked it up at the store.
They just kind of slip it in your pocket.
Pretty much, yeah. I carry it around. I earn coins. I look at the 3D doesn't bother me. I played Street Fighter with 3D for a couple hours, and it's fine. I don't get headaches from things like that. I played Rayman for a while. 3D was better than I thought it would be on a 10-year-old Dreamcast game. So
Really, it was
they-
originally an N64 game. I don't know which version they used.
Yeah, it looks like Dreamcast.
Okay.
Judging by the texture quality.
If you go into the area with grass early on and butterflies fly out,
The
it's
butterflies
Dreamcast.
are nice.
Yeah, okay. If
That's
there's
some good
butterflies, then
stuff.
it's gone from the Dreamcast version. That's how much I love Rayman. Give me
I
another.
know. But they are. There's another one coming. But
I know, but not now.
basically, like, I am not disappointed with the hardware overall or what they promise. I'm just disappointed in the games I have to play right now. I'm waiting for Ocarina. I basically bought this now so I wouldn't have to go look for one when Ocarina comes out, in part because, maybe it'll sell out by then. Maybe they're not going to ship anymore. Who knows?
Well, I mean, there is a very good chance that with what's happening in Japan that could deeply
Right.
affect the supply chain of
Yeah.
parts.
And
for
on the
this.
flip
Yeah.
side, Ocarina comes out the first day of E3, and I probably won't have time to go to the store. So
Really?
probably.
Yeah, it's kind of strange. They don't GameStop doesn't have a store at E3 because we're being surrounded by games, being tempted by games.
Yeah, just
What-
walk
yeah,
out
you
to
would
their
think
van
they'd
and
both
buy
trying
them.
to sell me a
Well,
game.
normally nothing comes out that week.
I
But
know.
This year it's like, Infamous 2, Ocarina. Wouldn't you rather
and
play
one
it?
of those two EA titles, I think, Shadow of the
Shadow of
Damned,
the Damned,
is
yeah.
coming out that day as well.
But I think I think it will prove itself over time. It's a Nintendo handheld. They always have exceptional lineups. I'm just sorry that the AR card thing is really cool. Like the not alternate reality,
augmented
reality is very cool. But like you look at it and you're like, how do you turn this into an actual game?
Right.
And further, Nintendo seems to have some kind of mandate that like games must be playable in 3D and 2D for the people who can't see 3D or can't see it for
Which
that
then
long without
starts to
getting
make
a
you
headache.
wonder, like-
Which then makes it's like, well, so it's always just going to be a gimmick then. Like
I
it's
mean-
never going to be integrated into the actual gameplay to any meaningful degree.
I mean, I found that I could get the 3D to work, but it seemed to want so much of me to hold my head still and hold my hand still. And then even then, because it is playing some type of optical illusion, that I felt like my eyes are constantly adjusting. And so there's just there's almost like it's like something immaterial is fighting me.
Yeah,
To
well,
actually
it
see
is a
that.
problem with stuff like that.
It's counterintuitive to the handheld process.
Yeah, because
Like,
you're moving the
I
screen.
move
and
right.
whenever you...
I mean, it's like if I'm holding a handheld, it's I mean, I don't know. It's
Well, but I think
I
it's
talk with my arms.
right.
I think it's important to note that it's a really nice DS. You know,
It
like
is.
I have
The
a DSi,
screen.
and it's much nicer.
And the graphical processor is impressive. I mean,
Right.
when you see
Yeah.
Street Fighter in 2D, and I don't know if it's doing a full 60 frames a second, but
It is doing 60.
I
It does
mean,
60 in
that's
2D.
really
It does 30 in
impressive.
3D. They did turn off the animation in the background. There's no action going on there, and they also broke the game to some degree because you have the face buttons and then you have the two shoulder buttons, and to make up for the fact that the hard kick and punch are on the shoulders, which is hard to hit for a special move, you can set those special moves or whatever to the touchscreen, which basically makes like charge characters like Guile and Honda the most powerful characters in the game because they don't have to charge their moves anymore. Like I can walk towards you and do a flash kick, and
as you were saying
that's
that,
bad.
you can suddenly do what the AI in Super Street Fighter 2 was doing to
Yes,
you back in the day.
you can finally be that dick.
So
And
you
you
get
can do it
some
online,
some
so.
measure of revenge for having endured that.
Somewhat. Oh, I love Guile. And played Guile all through Street Fighter 4 and Super Street Fighter 4, which is an uphill battle to say the least. And now it's just like, yeah, that's right. The military man's
The
back.
day is mine.
Yeah, to the augmented realities, for those who don't know, this is where you're using the camera to see real life, but there are like cards out there that can kind of create something that isn't there in
Right.
3D, and you can actually
Yeah.
move that camera around it as if it had physical properties.
Yeah, it's like that Eye
It's
of
very
Judgment game.
impressive.
It's like the Eye of Judgment game on the PS3, except you don't feel like a loser when you play
It. Or it's not like an iPad that you just like, I don't want that thing in my house.
Yeah.
Because I think it smells of
It's
nukes.
much lower
Yeah.
on the creepy anthropomorphism.
Well, I think with the 3D, and the AR cards, it's cool for like 5 minutes. But then, I mean, me personally, it made me uncomfortable to look at the 3D for any longer than that. But once you turn it off, it is a great piece of hardware in terms of the graphical capabilities and the feel and the new
Analog stick?
the
Oh,
stick.
The analog stick is the highlight of
Only
the...
reason to play Pilot Wings is it does show how effective that analog stick can be.
Right, but it doesn't justify the cost for me.
Well, no, because I'm assuming that this is a $250 console because of the 3D.
Right.
That, I mean, I don't know if the 3D actually merits that markup, but obviously they're under the impression that what this technology does will be appealing enough to consumers that they will be actually shelling out that much money.
Well, it sounds like judging by parts and cost of production plus labor, shipping, distribution, etc. Like 250 is about right. 250's
I assume no
probably
one's put up a taking apart video yet.
yeah.
on a
250 is
website?
probably actually lower in terms of profit margin than your average Nintendo system. But it's also a good advanced technology price point. And yes, it would be cheaper if it wasn't in 3D, but that's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the AR and the 3D, and I'm sorry to interrupt you,
That's
there,
okay.
Mike, is we all got caught up in the narrative of the Wii. Nintendo was somewhere in the dregs of financial, survival. Suddenly they put out this thing that was doing something very, very different and actually delivered on what it said it was doing. And it looked like there was this new era of games. And it was like John Travolta back in 1995. It was like, hey, we want to support you. It's a great underdog story. And then it turns out that what they had that seemed so innovative as a technology was not being demanded by the creative community out there that makes games. That no one really
Right.
knew how to take it beyond Wii Sports into something else. And I think that, I guess my feeling is coming to the 3DS, wise now to what had happened with the Wii, I'm already skeptical of what the 3D is going to be bringing to the table. I mean, it's not evident in any of the games. I mean, I think it works for some people, but it does not alter the way you're playing the games. And as you said, if they have to be 2D or 3D, that even doubles down on the idea that, we're not going to see anything other than, look, the island looks further away than if it was in 2D.
Right.
Well, I
Yeah.
wonder if this is because Miyamoto, I know, has had the idea for a 3D Mario game in his head since the 80s. You talked to Reggie at E3 last year, and you asked him how long have you been working on this, and he basically says since the Virtual Boy. 3D has been in Nintendo's to-do
Wheelhouse,
list for a very
let's say it.
long time.
Wheelhouse.
In the wheelhouse.
Wheelhouse.
And you got to wonder, even looking at the box on this thing, there's that one side of it is just devoted to warnings about how it will melt your child's eyeballs out of his head if you let him look at it if he's under 7.
Wouldn't it be
you're-
cool if that's what was in the case in Raiders of the Lost Ark?
3DS? No!
And you're
That's-
wondering, is that did Nintendo think this was going to be a freer technology to deal with in that regard? Was Nintendo planning on the idea that we have to make everything compatible with 2D, Like knowing Miyamoto, he's probably I'd imagine he wanted to dive into this 3D thing more and like have games that are like so involved in needing to see them in 3D to play them correctly.
Well, I think that's part of our skepticism is that everybody was expecting for the Wii to continue to get better as time went on, and it just tailed off. And so instead of being optimistic about good games coming out, I think our natural tendency to look at this and say, how long before it tapers off? Like, at what point are we we going to give up on these good games?
Well,
coming out?
and we've seen since the launch of the Wii where there was, I would say, something a little symbiotic between the gaming press and Nintendo. It was kind of like everyone was like kind of like running in pace with one another. Following that, I think rather increasingly cynical marketing and statements being made from Nintendo about their products, about their games, and all that stuff. That it's also created this kind of gulf in like what they're saying and what we actually think is the actual case. I mean, the fact that they launched with this insipid lineup of games.
Yeah.
I mean, Steel Diver baffles the mind.
Suck
And
Diver.
do you like it, Matt? 'Cause I know you were interested in it.
It's not good. Like, it's just, I mean, I was interested in part because I read an Iwata Asks on Nintendo's site where, Iwata goes around and kind of interviews Nintendo employees, and he interviewed basically Miyamoto on the Steel Diver thing. Like, what's this all about? And Miyamoto said he'd had the idea for a submarine game in his head for years and years and years, and finally he can do it because he wanted to have a throttle that you can like move up and down, and now you can do that on the.
No, yeah,
Well,
and that's
on
the
the-
thing.
that bodes poorly for the Mario game that he's had in his head for all these
Here you have this 3D engine. Look at the point of view you play the submarine from.
From the side.
You have the depth of the ocean. It's like, I mean, I was playing it, and I thought, oh, this is like the introductory sequence, and then there's a game that follows.
I mean,
Nope.
it's sad that I'm playing this system and I'm playing Steel Diver and I'm thinking, you know what? I can't wait to play on this. Endless Ocean 4. It's like that. No one should look forward to Endless Ocean.
Well,
like,
and I think you were saying earlier, game developers might not know how to quite harness the capability of the system. Well, I think you also have to take a step back and ask, what do consumers want? Because in the case of like the PSP Go, you would think, oh yes, everyone wants it more compact, more everything downloadable. But I mean, you can take it apart however you want. But I really don't know if consumers want 3D to go.
I mean, it was funny. I was on
Probably
Attack
not
of the
take apart
Show
a PSP.
yesterday, and 60% of, I don't know how many people that responded, said they do think 3D is the future. But
Is it the future in handheld gaming? Is it the future in home gaming?
I also question if it's in the future.
I think it's the
really
future because they've told us it is.
That's
Right.
what I was going to get
Yeah.
at, is that when you're asking what do consumers want, I think consumers want what Apple and Nintendo tell them to want. I mean,
At
that
this
really
point, yeah.
seems to be the era that we're in. This enthusiasm surrounding the iPad 2 is just kind of baffling. It's an iPad with
Well,
a different...
it's
I mean,
Because there's a vacuum. There's, nature abhors a vacuum. There's nothing good right now. So
Yeah.
the Apple tells us iPad is the next thing, so that's the next thing. And they have these great conferences where we expect great things to come. And so instead of actually announcing great things, just the fact that there was a conference presence means that whatever Steve Jobs tells you is
Oh,
the
no.
great thing
I mean,
is
really,
the great
don't
thing.
people understand what's happening with technology and the media? It becomes this almost like Baptist call and response routine that we're continually engaged in
Yeah.
year to year to year, and that no one's like stopping saying, hey,
This is not so great.
It's because we don't want to self-reflect at all. Because I mean, let's face it, there's some not nice things going on in the world right now, and
Yeah.
no one wants to think about that. It's much easier to think about the iPad too.
I was curious. I mean, I have not done a single kind of public interview with regard to what I think about the 3DS or what the significance of the 3DS is. I have not seen almost any coverage outside of the gaming media that, this thing really did launch when the world feels like it's falling apart.
Well, there was that thing on CNN's website.
What was it again?
Oh, it was a video by, I don't remember the guy's name, but he was basically complaining that it looked like something in the 90s, and he used a stylus, which is like, that's just so Palm Pilot-y. And that like it was weird. It was very strange.
Didn't
it
they
was
say
like
that
he-
it wasn't as good as the PS3?
Yeah, it didn't look as good as the PS3.
Oh, yeah, it
and
definitely
it
doesn't.
uses cartridges. I mean, what's this, the Game Boy? And it's just like, well,
It almost sounds
What
like
are you,
Seinfeld
like
was
60?
reviewing.
that's like somebody who...
he didn't
up with this style?
It's like somebody who read the video games Wikipedia
Yeah, well,
page and then
he didn't
decided
say
to do
I mean,
an
he
interview
didn't say
based
it
on
the way
it.
I'm saying it. It was,
Well,
it was-
yeah, I know,
but
But
it
we
was
like your way better.
but it was like, did you miss the DS, dude? Did you miss the most best-selling system in the history of video games there? Because
Yeah.
that's why it has a stylus, sir.
Now, I wanted to get to the point that I mentioned briefly. At E3, I was very impressed. You were very impressed. I don't know if you guys got to see it. I feel I saw something different there.
The 3DS?
I'm still impressed.
I felt that the 3D worked better there than what I was doing at home.
No, it looks the same to me.
So I'm seeing crap at home. I mean, I like literally it's like moving that slider like up and down.
I think it varies by game tremendously.
Which one do you think is the most effective or the most impressive use of the 3D in terms of it working?
The AR.
Yeah, no, the AR stuff works.
And I mean, Nintendo knows how to catch you. Nintendo knows how to make a first impression, and I think when you first start this thing up, and it's just like, all right, move the slider up. Here we go. Things going 3D, and like the logo like goes 3D, and the whole thing like kind of melts into the background, and you're like, ooh,
yeah.
Like that's a really nice. Here's what it does moment. But like the only games I played on it, I played Street Fighter, which is it's a port or a version of a game that I've already played that doesn't really work too well in 3D because it slows the frame rate down and that ruins it. So no. Right. And then Rayman, which is a 10-year-old game that they've converted into 3D. That was
already good.
That was already good. It's very well done, but I have not played anything myself that is designed to do the 3D thing in your face.
Yeah.
Although Nintendo, Dana was playing Nintendogs Plus Cats for a time. And
for a time, I'm still playing it.
And it looked just as good as I remember from E3.
That one, to my mind, that was one that stood out the most.
Yeah,
was Nintendo
because it used the depth.
Yeah, and anytime you put something like this out there, you have to remember that you have to have perfect conditions. I think we saw this with Kinect and to an extent Move. Like I couldn't get the AR cards to work in my living room because it was too dark.
Mm-hmm.
So I think at E3 you were
Dana
probably
lives in a cave.
I do. I need some lamps bad. But
so the 3DS Lite will actually have a light on the back of it.
Yeah, it's backlit 3D.
Let's read this comment from Chantler. I see the 3DS as the apology for the Virtual Boy because Nintendo has wanted to do 3D gaming for a while. My question is, do you see the 3DS as just a singular Nintendo product, or is Nintendo buttering us up for a large-scale 3D media push with the 3D Nintendo console down the line? I think that speaks to what you were, your supposition about Miyamoto. This has crossed my mind as well.
I don't think Nintendo's going to push that hard for 3D on a console because they don't own a television department.
Right.
I mean, no, there's something to be said there.
That's Sony.
Yeah.
I mean, but really, the next big thing we're expecting from a Nintendo console is like they still haven't made that leap into the HD.
Yeah,
they got a ways to go.
Do they really want to always seem like they're playing a game of catch up with their consoles, or are they going to try to do a really big jump all the way to where we are?
I think they
could partner with Samsung or something like that, or
maybe. I mean, maybe the next one could have a decent image output quality. How about that? How about we start?
I mean, yeah, that's all I want. And some fun games.
Well, look, let's not go crazy. Carnival Games 3D is
hey. One of my favorite games of all time.
And imagine the ring toss with depth perception.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Now, but is 3DS, it is strange because it does hold on to the DS brand, but they really at E3 were pushing the idea that this is its own thing. I mean,
I still keep calling it the DS.
I mean, yeah, that's what I do as well.
Well, there's a conceptual continuity there. Like the new PSP, the NGH or
Are you down with the NGP?
NPH or whatever.
Yeah.
It's first of all, it's hard to remember. Second of all, it sounds like a AIDS cocktail drug. And
thirdly, it's Neo Geo Pocket.
Right. Yeah. There's no conceptual continuity. It's not you don't think, oh, this is part of the family of
but I do think that's on purpose.
Probably.
I imagine PlayStation will be in it, but not SP.
I think they're distancing themselves from PSP as a brand.
Yeah, one thing I was trying to think of what would I like to do with 3D, and I thought now with the depth, if there was that touchscreen on the back like the NGP is supposed to have, there could be something very, very interesting there. I'm just throwing that out there to whoever wants to do that. We do have a couple of the games that came out. We'll go over quickly with you, Mike, because you are our go-to sports guy. WWE All-Stars, this is the more cartoonish-looking wrestling game.
Yeah, it's what would happen if SmackDown versus Raw met Blitz. Okay, so it's
actually that sounds kind of good.
It is kind of good, actually. It's the SmackDown versus Raw games have been getting more technical and more in depth as the years go on, and they keep trying to make it a sort of immersive sports game. But what you end up doing is wandering around backstage looking for storylines to get involved in. In this particular case, you don't have that. you are playing either. They have.
You just made the WWE sound like 6 characters in search of an author.
That's what it is.
that really
Actually,
is.
that's what SmackDown versus Raw 2011 is like. You're just wandering around backstage
I'm
looking
blanking,
for
I'm
a
blanking
plot.
on the author's name. Anyway, back to you.
But this is good because they have a pretty strong roster of current wrestlers and legends, that people that you haven't seen before.
Roddy Piper and
Andre the Giant, and all these Sergeant Slaughter, all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty good in that they've limited the scope of what the game is. There's only a few types of matches that you can wrestle, but what they've added is really excellent. There's this fantasy warfare mode where it's basically a legend versus a current wrestler, and they've taken like concepts of what the wrestlers' characters were like, so that you could. It's like dream matches, like innovative offense from the past and from the future.
Right.
Not the future, the present.
I wish it was from the
I know.
future.
If they had future wrestlers, that would be great. But then they do
In the
these.
future, there's a wrestler named Bob.
I think the coolest thing that they do is actually not playable, which is that WWE has cut together these cutscenes that are actually like wrestling promos with the old guys and the new guys that looks like they're calling each other out. It's really incredibly well done, and it's like 3 minutes for each of these fantasy warfare matches, and I think there are 12. But then there's also like a gauntlet where you decide who you want your end player or your end match to be, and you've got to go through 10 matches to get there through their storyline and that kind of stuff. It's still a button masher in sometimes in the best and sometimes in the worst possible ways. But it's an improvement. It's a decent franchise. I don't know if they could do it again. Because what would you do?
Where do you go with it?
Yeah, but it's a fantastic one-off game, and I think it'll sell really well. And they're pushing it really hard. WWE is pushing it really hard. So
that's good. I mean, THQ was pushing home front, and now they're going to let WWE do this push. Actually, speaking of them pushing hard, you're going to go get pushed hard by them, aren't you?
Yeah, THQ is sending me to WrestleMania. I'm going this weekend to the WWE All Stars Challenge, where you get to see the wrestlers play themselves in the game.
Right.
And then I'm going to the Hall of Fame ceremony, which is actually a black tie event that you must wear a jacket to. And then
But not a black tie?
Well, not I will be wearing a black tie, but
a
my
misnomer. I'm
crew
just
will
saying
probably,
it.
yeah. And then I'm going to WrestleMania. I'm actually going to be doing a diary on Attack of the Blog, which is g4tv.com/AOTB. All Sunday, you'll be able to see what happens at WrestleMania and pictures as it happens. So
Awesome.
That'll be kind of cool.
And then also, we'll have to be brief on this one, but Tiger Woods PGA Tour 12, the Masters.
Yeah.
Tiger.
Does Tiger play well in this one?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, that's good.
yeah. He plays real well in this one. You have to chase down things that Tiger did that are nigh upon impossible to accomplish. Really quickly, the addition of the Masters, you would think it would be just sort of a stopgap game between the PGA Tour games. It's not. It's really deep. It's incredibly good. Augusta looks beautiful. It is nearly impossible to play. So if you've been playing Tiger Woods for all these years and you think you're pretty good at it, get ready to be humbled in a major, major way.
Now, is that because of Augusta?
Yeah, it's
it is
because the golf course is
Augusta's
so
that
difficult.
tough.
They have replicated it so well, and it is so difficult that you will literally be throwing your controller over a 5-foot putt. It's really hard. It's like...
Would it
it's
be
not-
easier to actually do it with a golf club?
Actually, putting would be easier
Alright.
in real life than the putting. That's the putting mechanic is broken. Doesn't work very well. It's not broken. It's just it doesn't work very well.
All right.
They had it nailed around the time of Tiger Woods 09, and they've sort of deviated from that. But the game is great. Check it out. And Augusta looks fantastic.
Yes, it does. And the only way we'll ever really see it
Yeah.
is in a video game. Let's go to our question of the week from Bachby. And that's BACBI, in case there was someone who spelled Bachby with a K out there and you thought this was your question.
Yeah, it's not.
I was just wondering if you guys could talk about what you do during the process of reviewing a game. Do you write stuff down while you play the game? Do you play the game twice? Once for just playing the game as you would if you had bought it yourself, to play it again with the critic's eye? Sorry, I'm just thinking about Dragon Age 2 and me doing that to myself. Do you just play through the game and then start writing, etc.? Dane, I'll start with you because you oversee reviews here at G4.
Yes.
So,
Well, I think it varies with everyone, but I honestly don't know anyone who would play the game twice.
I mean, it takes. I mean, I think people may be under the misassumption that we have a
Weeks
remarkable
and
amount
weeks,
of time.
yeah,
Like
we
a-
don't.
like a
No.
time turner or something. we can't freeze reality and play that.
A lot of times we're getting games the day they come out, and it's just the nature of the industry and the
But
process.
we are very good about really, sports games are sort of a different type of animal because they
Yeah.
don't have sort of a narrative thrust to
Right.
them. But, people really do play these games to the end here.
Oh no, you have to play the game to the end. There's no, you can't.
And also, I think this is one part. I think Matt will agree with this as well. The game, as you would have played it as if you bought it yourself, and then again with the critic's eye. I think that most of us have been doing this long enough. I can't
Yeah,
play
I
a
don't,
game
I
without
don't
a
know what
critic's
it's
eye.
like.
Yeah.
To
It's
play
one and the
without
same.
critic's eye.
It's
Like I can't. I don't even know what that means. Like basically, like I always played them like this.
Yeah,
Like, I started writing reviews because I figured as long as I was like
Playing
doing
them.
that to myself while I was playing them, why don't I make some money off of it? you know?
yeah,
but like,
it's,
and I don't take notes. I hate notes. I hate drafts. I don't like doing that. I just play it.
Yeah,
and
usually
write
the
it.
stuff I would take notes on is
Yeah.
provided the names of some of the characters. I remember doing
Mm-hmm.
Uncharted 2. I just didn't even know how to begin writing the name of the bad guy in it with his.
Well, I've always had kind of a thing where sometimes I'll keep a note on like what character, whatever. But generally, like one of my things is if I didn't get pulled in enough by the game to remember who anybody is,
Yeah.
Right.
I'm going to go ahead and
No.
point
I
that
think,
out. Like,
I think you're right. And what is interesting, I found in reviewing it, is that you learn a lot, let's say in the first, depending on the length of the game, but like the first few hours. And then it's kind of seeing where does that go? 'Cause you have your core mechanics. You kind of have that sense of what the flow of the game feels like it's supposed to be. And then
Right.
sort of
I would say
it then becomes sort of that game to do something new with it, or to kind of not be able to maintain that kind of excitement.
I would say you learn a lot of what you need to know within the first 5 minutes, and that doesn't mean that you don't play the entire
Right.
game. But you know what the game mechanic and gameplay is like. You know what world you're in. You know how immersive it is. You know what the character is most of the time.
I mean, and like I have seen those few that think it's okay. Let's kind of slowly ease the player in. It's like
Yeah.
even books 200 years ago, like there was some editor going, "Let's have a really strong first sentence." I think
Yeah.
that's a good
yeah,
idea.
there aren't too many games you're gonna run into a problem with that. There's probably the Final Fantasies. Or,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
Final Fantasy 13, like it's like the game's a linear corridor. It's just like, well, but 40 hours in, it becomes a mission-based Monster Hunter ripoff, or like Dissidia, which unlocks stuff for you like 30 hours.
Yeah.
in
Well,
all
that's what's
that
a scary
crap.
thing.
And that's why, of course, we always have our reviewers play the whole thing. And I encourage them to write their review and get their thoughts down on paper before they determine a score.
Right.
Because I also think that's very important because you want the score to, since it's
And also,
out of
I did that
5.
with Dragon Age 2. I still didn't even know what I wrote. I wrote it down. I sent it to Matt. I sent it to you, and I said,
Yeah.
I would like to know what you think
Yeah.
the score on this should be, given what I just wrote. It's a
Which is funny because it's the opposite of what everybody who goes to the review page does.
Yeah,
Right,
I know.
they just look
they
at the
just see
score.
score. They're like, I don't like you, Mr. Sassler. Okay, now I'll start playing the game and see if maybe you're right. Oh, you are.
So this is Bentley the Turtle
yes,
disagreeing.
Bentley the Turtle. Yes. I'm gonna go. Yeah.
Making fun of a crippled turtle, sir.
In terms of when you write, this is an
Best
interesting
turtles.
one. I think I've rarely. Usually, by the time I'm done with the game, there's this point of exhaustion in your relationship with the game that I'm like,
Right.
I don't know if I want to write it just there. But I think it does sometimes take a couple of days to kind of reflect back on it and get that sense because one thing which is unfortunate about game criticism, but this is true I think for all types of entertainment criticism, is we are playing it in a way that most people will not.
Right.
13 hours straight of game playing is not advisable to a human being, but unfortunately we have to take it upon ourselves, and that you sometimes need to step back and let that kind of fade a little bit so that
I still haven't quite gotten over the Fallout 3 review.
Yeah, how
From
many
that.
hours did you do?
80 something.
Yeah, I mean,
and that was inside of 5 days.
I mean,
Delicious.
that was
'cause
kind of
we
all
had
us
to do
having
that
Dragon
fast.
Age.
Yeah.
We had to do that real fast, and so I was having dreams
No, it
about
was-
it, and then I'd wake up and be upset that I dreamed that I'd done something in the game and I hadn't yet, and so I'd had to go do it again.
I mean, I've had it where I close my eyes and I can still see the game
Oh, yeah.
playing, and
Yep.
I can't fall
Yeah.
asleep, and I
Yep.
want to fall asleep so I can get up and start playing the damn game
and
again.
to this, like putting in New Vegas, like there was sort of that feeling of like,
yeah,
it was just- it was
I've
like-
been here.
I think people who don't review things have a tendency to think, oh, what a luxurious lifestyle you live. But really, trying to whip through Fallout 3 in 5 days is exhausting. And you have to separate yourself from the experience of actually playing it and think what would this be like if I had all the time in the world to play it.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
we're
that's-
neck deep in first world problems
Yeah,
territory.
exactly.
Not saying that isn't a pretty awesome.
Oh,
Problem
Twitter's
there.
down
there,
again.
there are those times where you know that there's a game mechanic that you know were it altered, you could get through this game and write that
Oh,
review
yeah.
faster, but that really at the end of the day is not a true impediment to the enjoyment of the game, that you have to maintain that balance. Bachby, thank you for that question. It's relevant to the people on the panel, and it's not about multiplayer. Before we go, I want to point out that we are doing something in cooperation with a lot of other outlets and a lot of other members of the game industry, and it's called Gamers Heart Japan. It's a 60-minute video that we have participated in, dedicated to sharing the video game community's appreciation for the Japanese game industry, and we raise awareness for Red Cross relief efforts in the wake of Japan's catastrophic earthquake and tsunami. Members of the video game community, including Ed Boon, Ken Levine, Tim Schafer, to name a few, are going to be sharing their thoughts on the contributions the Japanese video game industry has made in the special. This is when it's going to be on. It's scheduled to run on April 3rd. Alongside many other media allies, we are going to be supporting this with a special running on G4TV.com on April 3rd, and we're actually going to air it on G4 proper, the television station, and that is going to happen on April 4th. There's obviously more information about that on G4TV.com. If you have not been following the news, I know that they're mainly talking about what's happening at that nuclear facility, but unfortunately that is obfuscating the fact that there are hundreds and thousands of people who are absolutely without a home or anything.
And they're still having earthquakes.
And
They
they're
just
still
had
having
another
earthquakes,
one.
and it's
Yeah,
obviously
and
becoming-
And
tsunami warnings.
snowstorms.
and it's very hard to get some very basic supplies. And from everything I've understood, and maybe I'm wrong, it is much wiser to give money to an organization like the Red Cross, who can get blankets, than to think that
Yes.
you should send your own blankets. That
Yes.
it is a much, much bigger thing.
There's
than-
always a pipeline for this kind of stuff.
once again, obviously, if there's anyone who watches this in Japan, my heart goes out. So, all right. With that, that is the end of feedback and the end of feedback for the month of March. We're entering the second quarter, everybody. Yay! At least that means Portal 2 is all that much closer.
It's only
So,
been one
Yeah.
quarter.
only one quarter.
Happy
Yeah.
fiscal new
Wow.
year, Adam.
Time flies when you're having fun. See you later. Hello there. I'm Adam Sessler, host of X-Play, editor-in-chief at G4TV.com. I talk a lot about video games, and sometimes a camera is in front of me when I'm doing that. We call that Sessler's Soapbox. Takes about 2 minutes of your time, but trust me, you will hear invective and joy and probably a lot of rude things like you've never heard before in the context of video games. I do it for you, so you should check it out. It's up every Tuesday on G4TV.com.